Prisoner in Isolation, a true story of survival. The story you are about to hear is true. It is my story. I spent 50 days in the infamous isolation prison located in the temporarily occupied territory. For ethical reasons, my name has been changed. I survived one of the darkest chapters of the war, where survival meant not just staying alive but enduring unimaginable horrors. My ordeal began before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine when I was helping orphaned children in occupied Novoazovsk and openly expressing my pro-Ukrainian stance. I was arrested at work. The charges against me were based on testimonies from acquaintances who confirmed my political views. My story. I spent 50 days in isolation. Those were the worst days of my life. I can say that every woman who ended up in that place was not just tortured, she was raped. These were some of the most brutal forms of abuse that Ukrainian women suffered, and many of them spent years there. Unfortunately, this did not only happen to women, but I am speaking about what I personally experienced. Forced undressing, medical examinations in front of men, degrading treatment of our dignity. This is all sexual violence. Any forced sexual act or use of someone's sexuality without consent is a crime. After nearly 2 months in isolation, I was transferred to the Donetsk detention center, where I spent almost 3 years. I lived in a cell with criminals, women who fought against Ukraine, convicted of murder, drugs, and other serious crimes. When I was taken out of isolation, I was thrown into a 20-square-meter cell. People in that cell lived their own lives. They slept, drank, and smoked around the clock. There was a hole in the floor for a toilet. When I entered, I could see nothing because of the thick cigarette smoke. I stood by the door, not knowing where to go. The so-called supervisor asked me what my charge was and immediately labeled me Ukrainian. From that moment on, the pressure never stopped. Angry stares, fear of turning my back because I never knew what might happen. There were people there convicted of brutal murders. Some had HIV, others had tuberculosis, and one woman had syphilis. I slept on the same bed with them and breathed the same air. I spent 3 years in this hell. 7 months before my release, they brought in a woman named Olga. She is now in Russian captivity, being tortured. I remember when they threw her into the cell. She had a severe panic attack, curled up in the corner, trembling and crying. The guards just laughed at her. Later, she explained that she had heard that the people in this cell were the most dangerous murderers. In 2022, Ukrainian prisoners of war were brought to the cell above us. We saw them being led with bags over their heads and hands bound with tape. They were tortured. They were forced to sing the Russian anthem and shout Russian slogans. But we had no way to help them. We had no medical care, no right to defense, no visitation rights, nothing. Any requests for assistance were ignored. I regret that at the time, the stories of these women were not spoken about loudly enough. Perhaps now, fewer women will have to endure such horrors. I hope that when these territories are liberated and these women are freed, they will have the strength to speak out, and society will have the empathy to hear these horrifying stories. I urge everyone not to call those who have been in Russian captivity victims. We are not victims. We are survivors. We endured. We stood strong. And that gives us the strength to move forward, to grow, and to help others. I have many friends who are also in captivity. I draw inspiration from the women who have survived and have the strength to speak about it. I want women who have suffered torture, abuse, and sexual violence to know that there is a possibility to live again. I was released from captivity on October 17th, 2022, along with 107 other women.